So this week, there's been more information released about something we've talked about in the past on the show. There's a new esports league which will be launching in Australia in 2018, a city-based league being brought out by a UK company called GFinity, and they're launching the Australian league later next year. So, Joe, you had the fortunate experience of speaking to the guys. They've got a new CEO and chief operating officer for the league who've come from very prestigious backgrounds. And you had the chance to speak to them this week and kind of find out more about what we can expect from the league, because we didn't know much about what to expect. Like, we knew the team names were released, we knew that it was city-based. We didn't quite know much about what was being played or how it was going to work, but a lot more of that information's now come out.
Yeah, I spoke to Dominic Raymond and Sam Harris, the CEO and COO of GFinity Australia, and it was a revealing chat. You know, we got to discuss a lot about what they've got planned. There was a lot that they weren't ready to reveal yet, but at the end of the day, I think we got some I got some really interesting information out of them. They were mostly, they wanted to talk a lot about the launch of the Challenger series.
Yep.
Because the Challenger series is their the way they put it is their path from amateur to pro.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to talk about that a lot and sort of get across that idea. They were talking about how in a lot of other sports, if you're not already recognized by the academies, by the time you're 12, you don't have much shot of going pro.
There's feeder clubs for rugby,
exactly.
that kind of feed into the professional grades, and there's lower level clubs, and that's how you make your progression as a professional. Which doesn't exist for esports.
No,
not yet.
Well, yeah, exactly, yet. And I don't think that that's what this is going to be necessarily. This is going to be something a little bit, broader. But it's absolutely going to give players an opportunity to get into the pros. And I think that's, it's fascinating. It's a really awesome opportunity, because a lot of times, especially in Australia, a lot of the time, players, the only real option you have to get into a pro team is to play in a slightly worse pro team.
Right.
And hope that someone goes away. Because, in a lot of cases, these guys, team synergy is so critical in so many cases, in League of Legends or CSGO or, Rocket League. All of these situations that, it's hard to just slot someone in. It's hard in every sport.
A team of champions would never beat a champion team.
Oh, look out. Tell that to, the Heat versus the Spurs? Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Yes.
So it's one of those situations where, amateurs will get that opportunity, but I don't think we'll see amateurs necessarily. Not in the first couple of rounds of the Challenger Series. We'll see very good players who didn't quite make the cut. There's only 6 teams, 6 city-based teams, and there are so many amazing esports players in Australia that I think they won't initially get they won't get the berth in the pro team that they want, and this will be a path in. And I think it's still awesome. It's still fantastic.
No, it is. It's like first season of Australian Idol, right? Like, you'll get all the great, all the great players, singers coming out first.
Yep.
So no, and it's good, and I love the idea of this focus on grassroots. We can hear ourselves, so it's quite fascinating.
I'm loving it. But it's slightly time shifted. This is awesome. Just keep going.
Slightly, but no, it's fascinating that they are focusing on this grassroots. Really. And we're 5 seconds. We're about a minute behind on that.
Oh my lord. The reality of the situation is that at some point the Challenger Series is going to feed in actual amateurs, but at the moment, I think there's more to it. There's more that I think this situation is actually going to develop into. The pro teams are working quite closely with GFinity. That's something that they were telling me. Eventually those pro teams are gonna they're going to play in other leagues. They're going to play in other situations. The city-based teams aren't everything for them. The Chiefs and Legacy, and they've got their own League of Legends teams. They've got their own CSGO teams outside, separate from GFinity. And so I think that is going to create interesting situations as well. I think on top of it, further than that, there's there's all sorts of like implications about the games that they're playing. Like Rocket League is already like hyper competitive in Australia, and we've got some really good teams. The Chiefs team in particular, fantastic team. Pale Horse Esports was bought out by someone last week, but it eludes.
Chime in the comments and let us know.
Let us know who they were bought out by. But they were bought out like literally like last week, and like that, I think they're another fantastic team that we're going to see them like have to try to wind other players in to their system. And when those players go away, when they separate from the city-based team, the experience that they're going to have as a result of being wrapped into the challenge, like the pro teams, the elite series, via the challenger series. I think that is fantastic. That's going to be really something. I mean, it's just going to lift the quality of all esports in Australia, at least in the 3 games that they're playing: Counter-Strike, Rocket League, and what's the third one?
Counter-Strike, Rocket League, and Street Fighter.
Street Fighter 5, and Street Fighter 5 is a super interesting one as well, because I mean, Darksided already has like the lion's share of all the like best Street Fighter players until like very recently, a couple of ROF and fuck, I'm not remembering.
No, that's okay. It's all right. I mean, I think it's just it seems like a lot of positive moves. Like, so I was really interested to see someone of the CEO's pedigree. Dominic Redmond, who'd come from the Big Bash. So Big Bash has come leaps and bounds in terms of its popularity in Australia, and it was really well managed, and they did a really good job of it. So it's really encouraging to see someone with this level of expertise in growing a sport and having a great track record. And you can see his fingerprints on it. You know, the fact that they're focusing on the grassroots and they're having a draft. Like, after the Challenger Series is done, they have a draft to get those players into the professional teams, which is amazing. Like, like you say, like there's going to be a lot of competition, like good competition early on, but that provides an avenue for Australian players to actually have a genuine chance of getting into a league, getting into a team. And I mean, the initial prize money is $450,000, which for an Australian sport in general is really good. For it to be tied to an esports competition is fantastic. So I mean, obviously there's a lot of mouths to feed in that. But wow, what a start!
It is a great start. It is a proper great start, and it also is encouraging to see that they're very willing to, I guess, like change thanks to feedback. Because I think initially when they announced their cities and their city team names, they weren't received necessarily well.
And maybe that was an appropriate response to said names.
Maybe, but yeah, they were mocked a little. And
well, even the concept of city-based teams was something that when I was talking to people within the industry, within the games industry, very much like thinking, that'll never work with gamers. Gamers don't have that kind of tribal mentality that other sports codes do. But I don't know. Like I mean, I'm not a hardcore esports fan. For me, this is an easy entry point. I can watch, the CS:GO competition, and the Brisbane team, like, because that's where I'm from. If they're cleaning up against Sydney team, that will make me happy. So it does give me an entry point. Like, and I think and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think esports enthusiasts and esports fans will kind of like their players. Like, they won't. The city-based teams won't put them off. Like, they just.
I don't think they'll do any harm. Like, I don't think that it will be bad for them to have city-based teams. I don't know how effective it will be in like
getting new eyeballs.
Well, no. I think getting new eyeballs, like you were saying, it will give you a reference point immediately. But what I think will wind up happening is fans will probably wind up attaching themselves to players instead. I think that happens a lot more now, especially now that players are so out there with like their social media and stuff like that. They're streaming on Twitch and stuff like that. I think it's more important for players to make sure that they're recognizable and recognized at the same time. And that, like, you might even see like fan bases following players around, like as opposed to just staying with the city. Like, that is their favorite.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you do in other professional sports, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, using the NBA as a reference, you know, I'm trying to think of someone who just. I'm not happy that Dwayne Wade left. You know, I'm not happy about that.
He's with his buddy in Cleveland.
But you know, like Minnesota and Jimmy Butler, like I will now support them because he's there, right? So So and also like with the individuals kind of developing their own profiles, there is that you know, industries which kind of pop up around it, because we're starting to see, you know, player management companies coming up, you know, like professional associations for the players. So it's really kind of like, it's, you know, the growth is kind of exponential.
Yeah.
You know, they're really like, and maybe there's the effect of having people like, you know, Dominic coming in, that, you know, and, you know, Adelaide Football Club kind of aligning with their league. So with mentioning that, like, it looks like there'll be a bit of a glut next year, because we will see the AFL league, and then Channel 7 are bringing out their league as well. Like, do you think the three can coexist along with Overwatch, which is happening globally?
Yeah, so we'll have the Overwatch World League, we'll have something from AFL, we'll have something from Channel 7, we've got GFinity, and of course we've still got the ESL doing like so many different things, and they've been killing it all year. You know, I think they have really set the standard, and I think they've shown a lot of people what can be done with like esports in Australia. So I think with ESL continuing to kick ass, and like other organizations working hard, I think we're going to be spoiled for choice next year. And I think it's also going to be an interesting one, because it's going to be like an interesting situation, because at some point, some teams or some players are going to need to decide where they're going to play.
Yeah.
And that's going to impact certain competitions.
Yeah.
Because we're already seeing this year that certain teams, especially with Counter-Strike, the Counter-Strike schedule is so packed, it's so busy, that some teams, you know, they want to play as much as they can, but they just had to like cut off at some point and like dip out of some tournaments, so that they can play other ones that they qualified for or been invited to.
Or there's more prize money attached to it.
Exactly.
You know, there's not a lot of money around. It's good to see the pot growing, but you know, you got to make financial decisions as well.
Or again, that you know, if they get international experience, you know, international experience is so critical to esports in like Australian esports teams.
Yeah.
And so I wonder how they're going to manage that. I wonder how all of the many attempted organizations are going to manage that, because I think if any of them promise international experience, they will be the ones to keep an eye on the most. And we know that ESL provides a lot with, you know, the Zen League, and like they've got a good path to the Zen League and stuff like that. So I think they've got a good advantage at the start.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like seeing all these leagues kind of setting up in Australia. It'd be interesting to see if it gets the attention of someone like the Overwatch League, right? Because they've got expansion teams happening, and there's a couple in this region, in Shanghai, and what's the other one down? Shanghai. Shanghai's one. Yeah, and Seoul. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I know I've said it before on this show. Like, I don't think there's anyone in Australia that can have that ownership,
right?
You know, because it's a $20 million buy-in. I don't think there's anyone in Australia that can kind of would be interested in that model. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see kind of the success of this, whether it kind of encourages.
We need like Paddy Mills or basketball. You know, basketball players buying all sorts of esports things. We need
Joe Inglis. Exum, you can. Well, Ben Simmons is going to be the next LeBron, right?
So, oh my God,
he'll have heaps of money. Come on, mate.
He had a killer game today. It was amazing. Like I think there does need to be a huge injection of money, but like we will continue to see. I think we're going to see players head to Overwatch World League teams before we see an Australian team.
Yeah, right.
Because I think it's already criminal that there aren't blank esports players on some of the OWL teams. I mean, we've got some amazing players. RQT played out of his mind at times in the World Cup, and like he was hardly alone. I think it's hard because he's an in-game shot caller. So how many shot callers do you need? But Yeah, it's crazy. We're definitely going to see more. I want them to continue to play in the OPC. It's going to be a shame if they decide to stay in Australia, but I totally understand. I mean, they don't want to have to go second themselves in Taiwan for 9 months out of every year or whatever. So
yeah, but Dante Exum went and played in college in the United States, as did Ben Simmons. I mean, they had US heritage, so it made it easier. But that's why I was using those examples, because they are good examples of young Australians who have managed to make it to the most elite levels of their sport. So and something like this league, the GFinity League, which is investing so much in grassroots support and making these avenues for these players, is just the kind of thing we need to bring esports. Bring the talent we have, and Australians will support Australians duking it out on the world stage. Like, doesn't matter if you don't like soccer, like, you'll support the Socceroos because they're in the World Cup. It's really exciting to see this level of support, and it's really great to see what Dominic and his team are doing. With their with that inherent knowledge they're bringing from the Big Bash. So it's really positive, and I've found it a fascinating read. If you haven't read the article, Jode's piece is up on redbull.com, so go and check it out. There's lots of great esports coverage on Red Bull.
Oh, isn't there just? There's heaps.
There's heaps.
We've got it all.
Yeah. So so thank you for coming in today. It was really great. Really great to explore that with you. That Gaming Show, live every Tuesday night, 7:30. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Bye.